Good day and welcome back. Today I have a bit of a special episode for you where I'm going to be comparing the Argo Mole against the MISC Prospector from the perspective of a solo player, somebody out there on their own in the depths of space mining. Without further ado, stay tuned. Recently I've recorded reviews for both the MISC Prospector and the Argo Mole, and they were really intended to focus on the individual ships, but that really begs the question of how do they actually compare? When I started out with mining, I knew it was quite the learning curve. One of the things I really struggled to actually find information on was what ship was the right ship for me. The Prospector is more of a solo geared ship naturally, so that is the one I ended up going with. I always had wondered if the Argo Mole would have been better. The first thing to look at when comparing the two ships is the design and aesthetics. They each come from a long line of ships that really have kind of a standard design to their own lines, their own manufacturer. And it really comes down to a lot of personal preference when you start to look at the finishes and how the ship actually looks. So I'd rather focus on the actual design and the functionality of the ship itself. First up, the MISC Prospector. Now, to enter the ship, you have a single ladder, which you have to actually climb. Luckily, when you're getting out of the ship, you can just open the door and jump. But I do find that the animation to have the character actually climb up into the ship itself can be a little bit tedious. Comparing that directly to the Argo Mole, however, there is actually an elevator the Argo Mole has to take. So the time difference between the two is actually about the same, I would say. Now, actually navigating through the ship, MISC Prospector is designed for a single player. So it's naturally a lot smaller. Everything is a lot more compact. Everything is right there for your use. You have your bed in the back, but it's only a few steps between the bed and the seat. Now, looking over again at the Argo Mole, the Argo Mole is designed to be that multi-crew ship, so it's designed to have up to 4 players in it. That means that there's actually a lot more space that you need to maneuver around. Now, one of the biggest slashes against the Argo Mole that I find is the ladders. There's 2 ladders in the ship, and neither of them seem to consistently work. You constantly have to reclimb the ladders. Now, the Argo Mole actually does offer a lot of other luxuries that the MISC Prospector doesn't offer. For instance, you have a bit of cargo space that you can actually throw some extra mining heads on. Yeah, they can tumble around beside your bed in the Prospector, but they're a little bit difficult to get in and out, whereas the Argo Mole actually has a ladder to do exactly that. The other thing is there are a lot more capabilities, such as suit lockers, eating stations in the Argo Mole as well. Even though those don't work in game today, I can't imagine that they won't have value in the future. All that said, however, I really have to give this category to the MISC Prospector, simply because its ease and simplicity makes it a lot more of an appealing ship to me in this regard. Next up, we're going to look at the performance and capabilities of each of the two. So, in the Argo Mole, we can store up to 96 SCU in the saddlebag, with the Prospector storing up to 32 SCU. With the caveat that, of course, you can always take the bags from the Mole and put them on the Prospector, but you still get roughly half the SCU capability that the Mole has. Now, Prospector does have a slightly higher SCM speed at 156 SCM, and the Mole is 140 meters per second SCM. So the Prospector is a little bit faster. It is definitely a little bit more maneuverable as well. Now, the big difference between the two is when you actually start talking about the mining head. So in the Prospector, you have a single size 1 mining head. It's not bad. You can break most rocks, although sometimes you do need a couple of Prospectors to break the rock as well. And I do find it a little bit restrictive, but it's actually not that bad. Now, in the Mole, however, you have 3 size 2 heads. What that actually means is that you can set up 3 completely unique layouts, one for larger rocks, one for more unstable rocks, etc. This offers a solo player a lot of flexibility when you're out mining and you find that perfect rock that's full of quantanium that you just couldn't break in the Prospector normally. Now, yes, it is an option to try and store those things in your ship and swap them out on the fly, but I've really got to give the entire performance category to the Mole here. It's just so much more versatile, and it offers so much more between the larger SCM space, the actual storage space on the ship itself up the elevator, as well as the fact it has the 3 mining heads as opposed to just the one that the Prospector has. Just a quick look through the components that each of the ships offer. Both of them offer kind of similar sized components. Now, Prospector has a single medium power plant, for instance. The Mole has a single large power plant. So they're very comparable in regards to the size of the ship. Now, where I do think that the Mole does lack a little bit is the shield generators. I would love to see it have 2 large shield generators, I believe. Whereas a Prospector actually has 3 small shield generators, so I think it's a little bit underpowered in the shield generation side, especially when you consider it's a lot less maneuverable and a lot slower to try and get away, and you really do need to buy yourself some time. As far as components go, I really have to call this a draw between the 2 different ships. I think they're roughly equivalent enough that there is no real clear winner for me. The next category to consider to me is really what are the user experiences and what do other players actually say about each ship. Now, the MISC Prospector is actually the simpler of the 2. Everybody seems to like it. Anyone who plays it loves it. It's the little engine that could, right? It just does its job, and that's all you can really say. Now, the Argo Mole is where things get a little bit more complicated. Because in the Mole, there's really 2 camps of people. There's kind of your older school players that absolutely love to go out with groups of friends and used to love to do group mining. But then there's some newer players to the game who have never really experienced that don't really get it and they don't really understand it. I mean, I bought the Argo Mole in-game prior to the last wipe, and I used it once. I never really found a reason to go and bring it out because everything I wanted to do, Prospector would do. But at the same time, I've talked to plenty of people, and especially after my last review came out of the Argo Mole, I've talked to plenty of people that absolutely love the Argo Mole, and they couldn't believe what I had to say about it. So this is what I'm going to call a draw between the 2 ships, just because there's such extremes on the Argo Mole side that it kind of balances out the status quo of the MISC Prospector. The next category I want to consider is the cost and the value of the 2 ships. Now, the Prospector costs about 2.9 million credits in-game. Got a reasonable rental fee at 73,000 credits a day. And I even find the pledge store price to be very reasonable, coming in at around $155 USD. I find this ship to be a great value just because it has great money-making potential. It's a very focused ship, though. It's the only thing it can actually do is mine. Now, this is where I find the Mole is really lacking to me, and I think I'd like the ship a lot better if it was more reasonably priced. So coming in at 8.9 million credits. Now that's roughly 3 times the price of the Prospector in-game. In the pledge store, it comes in at $315 US right now, and the rental cost is an astonishing 223,000 credits a day. And this is where I find the Mole is really lacking, because I would find it very difficult to actually earn back enough to justify renting a Mole in a day's mining. Now again, it is very different as a solo player as it would be as a group. If you had 4 individuals out there mining together, you'd probably be able to get a lot more money a lot quicker. But again, this review and the comparison is really from a solo player's perspective. I know a lot of people starting the game don't start out with an entire crew of people they want to play with. So this category, hands down, without a doubt, I have to give to the MISC Prospector. So in conclusion, in what was actually a lot closer race than I would have thought it was going to be going in, I have to give this to the MISC Prospector. I think that as a solo player, you're coming into the mining field. It's just the better all-around ship. A lot easier to maneuver, has a lower price point, and it really is a nice way to get your feet wet with mining before you really kind of invest into it a lot. That being said, there's no reason that you can't use the Prospector to gain the funds to actually buy the Mole in game. That would be a good way to go about it. But again, as somebody just getting into mining, I would strongly recommend going with the Prospector. But it was a very close race, and I know that a lot more experienced players who like the Mole and like the feel of the Mole would actually kind of prefer to go that way. So it really comes down to what you like, and maybe it's as simple as the design aesthetic. Which of the 2 ships appeal to you? As I mentioned earlier in the video, I do have full reviews of both ships, which I will link above here as well. And I do suggest if you're looking for more information, go check out those videos. But with that said, thank you everybody for your time today, and I hope to see you in the verse.